Let's turn to the advisory and take a look at AI's impact on wealth platforms and advice. Mark Papendieck is the Chief Commercial Officer at Dash Technology. He joins us again. Now, Mark, good to see you again.
Thanks for having me again.
AI, it is affecting every aspect of society and only going to increase, obviously. But in terms of wealth management, we talk about, well, with AI in general, about opportunities, but also threats. What are those as it applies to wealth management?
Yeah, well, look, there is this strange duality to AI, and I think whether it's threats and opportunities, or at a personal level, people talk about the extra capabilities, the extension of capabilities that sits in our pocket, but at the same time, there's an amputation of that. I mean, I feel a bit dumber having to rely on my phone for everything these days. But so there's this duality of threat, opportunity, extensions, and amputations. But I think the point is this, that this duality that the internet creates, this tension isn't going away. It's not cyclical, it's structural. And I think the real challenge is businesses learning how to adapt to live within that tension. And to do that, I think we've got to take a really intentional look at what AI is going to replace in our businesses, what it's going to augment, and then really understand what the truly human elements of our businesses are, and double down and invest in those and try and preserve those. So I think at a headline level, they're the fundamental changes that are coming our way.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you referred to, perhaps relying on your phone makes you feel a bit dumber, but in fact it is about augmentation, isn't it? And not necessarily replacing technology, relying on technology and becoming, a little dumber, if you like, overall, or at least lazy. So how does that apply to, when you're talking about wealth management, practically, how do you use AI positively?
Yeah, well, look, I think that the first part is understanding. A lot of people think this is just another tech thing, and they compare it to the internet. But fundamentally, this is really, really different to the internet. The internet changed the way that businesses connect. They changed the way that businesses transact. That they essentially was a foundational infrastructure shift. It moved processes from happening offline to online. But it didn't replace the way we think. It didn't do things for us. And that's the fundamental difference with AI. AI actually does things for us, and it does replace the way that we think. And that's why the change is so massive. And in fact, you see Australian businesses starting to talk about it in mainstream press like the AFR. But one of the most striking comments I heard recently was from the CEO of one of the large language models, Anthropic. And he came out last week or two and said that in the next 1 to 5 years, this is short-term stuff, that up to half of all entry-level white-collar jobs are going to be wiped, and unemployment could be up to 20%. Sounds alarmist, but even if he's only half right, think about the fundamental changes that is going to have on absolutely everything, and how we prepare for that. And it's not just the depth of that change, it's the speed as well. I mean, you think about, it took the internet, mobile phones, it took 16 years odd to reach 100 million users. The internet took 7 years to reach 100 million users. ChatGPT, 2 or 3 months.
Goodness.
So the pace of change is fast, the depth of change is fast. So the choice is, do we stand in front of that wave or do we get on the wave? That's the choice.
Do you feel as though Australian businesses, and in particular in the wealth management business and advice, that they understand that this is a revolution, not evolution as such, and therefore perhaps maybe hesitant to make these, what would be significant investments in AI technology? And further to that, I guess, given the pace of technological change, is there also a reluctance saying, well, hang on, what if I invest in this now, in a year's time it may be redundant?
Oh, look, absolutely, and I think some of that's valid, but I think that some of the people who are sitting back, businesses that sit back and say, I don't believe in it, or should I sit back? I think that one truth cuts through all of that, and that is the reality that economics and progress, it just always wins. So as soon as one of your competitors starts in the advice game delivering better advice, more personalised advice, more quickly and at a lower cost, well, the conversation shifts from do I believe in AI, or am I a fanboy, or am I going to do something, to it shifts to a conversation about economics. Because we all know that as soon as one of our competitors starts doing something better, more cheaply, more quickly, that we have a choice. That is, respond or don't respond. We know that talent, we know that capital, and we know that clients follow value and efficiency. And that's what's going to happen here. So I think that there are some very basic things that people can be doing. For example, the largest use case for financial advisors of AI at the moment is really simple things like transcription of meetings, client note taking, and using generative AI to create content for client reports. And that's saving on average advisors up to 10 hours a week, which is 500 hours a year. And that's just the really basic stuff. So again, I don't think it matters about whether you believe in it or whether you, the choice is sit back and do nothing and get left behind, or start doing the really basic things that can make a real difference right now.
Well, of course, AI can tailor individual advice, can't it? So are we at that point where perhaps wealth managers indeed can use it to the point where adds value to their own business?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we talk about it in two segments, there's talk about advisors to start with, and often we get asked, will advice be replaced? And I don't think advice will be replaced. I think if we think about the advisors, we always say, think about your business in a couple of years' time. Understand that the pace of change and the sort of tools that are available to you, and think about your business. Put it into three buckets. What in your business can be totally replaced by AI? So what can be automated? And then what's that second bucket, which is what can be augmented, but you still want a human in the loop there. And then the third category, which is the really important one, is what are the human elements of your business that AI can't do? And that's where businesses are going to double down and invest in that part, that truly human element of their business. And then design their processes, their people strategy, their tech strategy around that component of their business. So that's where advice is heading. It won't be replaced. And if you think about some of those things that don't fit on a spreadsheet, like dealing with family dynamics or this ethical question, moral question perhaps about if a parent inherits some money, do they pay it off their mortgage or give it to a child that might be struggling with something? So they're the things that AI can't do. It can fake empathy, it can pretend to care, but clients know that AI doesn't care. And it's that long-term relationship that advisors build that can't be faked by AI, that is where the value truly is, and that's where businesses need to double down.